It's back now. Greg Kelly, I see the stars and stripes behind you there. That's kind of an interesting sight. Well, we are experiencing some difficulty with our satellite feed out of the presidential palace. Let me just tell you, while we try to reestablish, you are seeing exclusive pictures.
Hey guys,
this is the only place you can see these pictures. Yes, we can hear you, Greg. Go ahead. Greg?
Yeah, we're still on. It's on TV.
Greg, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Guy running up the flag.
You are seeing in the background the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. You saw just a moment ago U.S. soldiers carrying the stars and stripes, the flag of America, about to be hoisted over that presidential palace in Baghdad. Greg Kelly is our embedded reporter. Greg, can you hear me? Well, we'll just let Greg go about his business there for a while and try to reestablish with him here. But look at this picture. Astonishing images coming by video phone from the very center of Baghdad. Fox News is the only place you will see this. You've just heard Greg Kelly report that U.S. forces are in control of the presidential palace. For the moment, they plan to stay. It's a tactical situation. It could change. But for the moment, they seem to be setting up base inside this presidential compound. The goal here was to show Saddam Hussein that they can move at will through his city without being seriously challenged. Greg Kelly says the trip in was light to heavy resistance. We can hear gunfire in the background. There is an ongoing battle in the city of Baghdad. But these are exclusive pictures seen only on Fox News of the presidential palace in Baghdad, where our correspondent Greg Kelly is reporting. Greg, can you hear me? Brad Baker is someone we should talk to right now while we continue to look at these pictures. He is a former Army Ranger. He's coming to us from Atlanta. Brad, as you see what's going on there, what are your thoughts?
My first thought is it's hard to follow that act right there. I mean, we've just made history right now. We just had a colonel and a live news reporter stand on the presidential grounds and just announce to the world, hey, guess what? We told you we'd be here, now we're here. This is just such a psychological blow to the Iraqis, to their armies and their Republican guards. We said we were going to do this, and we've just now done it. And if the people of the world don't understand what a great achievement we just accomplished, I don't know what else will send a message. But it's interesting to see that they did this right in the middle of the day. There's no propaganda that can be spun against this. I mean, all the TV stations are picking it up. We're there, and we're now starting to clear it out. I don't think that this was just some probing mission. As you can tell now, there was a lot of question about this. We're in there now, and we're going to start occupying it, and we're going to start doing, there's several follow-on missions, I'm sure, to come up. But I don't think we're probing anymore. I think that we're in, and we're in for the fight now.
What do you think the top priority is?
Well, the top priority is to secure the area. You're going to need to go through and clear those buildings. You're going to need to look to make sure that they haven't been booby-trapped. And then you're going to have to start securing the perimeter because there's going to be a counterattack. It's just, as you heard the colonel say, when they probed it the first time, they came back the second time and found that they had reworked the road, put in mines, dug ditches. There's going to be a counterattack here, and the soldiers are getting ready for it. I'm sure they're taking up fighting positions. I'm sure they're laying out maps and coordinates and sectors and getting ready for to call in air support in the event that they need to do that.
All right, let me bring in Allison Camerata, my colleague. Allison, I'm sorry, I got a little excited and kind of took over for a moment, but jump in here with a question for Brad Baker.
Oh, thanks, Brian. No problem. Well, I certainly understand all of the excitement. I actually wanted to bring in Colonel Hunt, who's sitting next to me. He, too, has been sort of following this with bated breath, watching all of these reports from Greg Kelly. Colonel Hunt, will you just give me your impressions of what you're seeing right now?
Well, I think the Battle of Baghdad has begun. It's over. I mean, you take the airport yesterday. We're running around the city. When you take the palace, the man's palace, his home, and put it on television, you've said we own the city. So I mean, now it's just a question of when the when we find Hussein, so we can declare victory, at least as far as Baghdad's concerned.
But it's not over. I mean, haven't we heard that there's a high possibility for many casualties now?
Oh, yeah.
And there's going to be street-to-street fighting. I mean, we're only on the cusp of this.
Well, when you take the airport for a major city, and you take the man's palace, you take the Ba'ath headquarters, you do all this bombing. I mean, we can go around anytime we want. It's never going to be over as long as Hussein is alive there. But from a tactical standpoint, it's an absolutely brilliant operation. And to suggest anything else, but we have victory. We haven't decided. We decided not to declare it. We did a great job.
Greg Kelly said that they encountered light to moderate resistance.
But you heard Dave Perkins' argument.
What did he say?
Perkins says, yeah, but you also saw us get hit by RPGs all day. Yeah, so when they get hit with a rocket-propelled grenade, which won't stop a tank, and we blow that piece of equipment out of the, So from the guy getting shot at, it's not like resistance. And Dave's right. I mean, of course he's right. He's on the ground. I mean, they've run 500 or 600 miles. They've been in continuous combat for 17, 18 days. The Marines on one side, Army guys, Naval Air, Air Force Air, the Special Ops community doing unbelievable things. Yeah, but somebody's going to declare victory in Baghdad. But from my perspective, when you own the airport and the presidential palace, it's pretty much over, at least for that particular part of the battle. We still got the northern part of the country to do.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, I just want to add one little note here while y'all continue the discussion here just a moment. Apparently over at the Pentagon, they have been, as we have been, looking at these images from the presidential palace in the center of Baghdad, watching Greg Kelly's report. And according to our Mike Emanuel, who is there at this hour, they're kind of changing their mind. They think that indeed this might be the battle for Baghdad. They're basically confirming what our Greg Kelly has said. I want to reiterate, though, that Greg Kelly said it was a moment-by-moment situation. They're going to hold ground if they can, but they see no shame in backing out if they have to. They're going to continue to monitor the situation. But I just must reiterate the astounding images you are seeing, live pictures from the center of Baghdad. The Army's third ID and our correspondent Greg Kelly are there on the scene. Tanks have taken the compound. The fight has been going relatively well, moderate to stiff resistance, and this is apparently the moment we've all been waiting for, the attempt of U.S. Army and the coalition forces to take over downtown Baghdad. Allison?
Thanks, Brian. Colonel Hunt, why couldn't we have done this from the air? Why couldn't we have just taken out this presidential palace from the air? Why did we need to go in the ground and go actually inside this palace?
As great as the Navy and Air Force are, and great as our helicopter pilots, nobody surrenders to an airplane. You got to have people on the ground. You have to own it. And there's a symbol here too. We could have flattened every building in Baghdad. It takes a little while, but we've chosen not to because of the hearts and minds business. It's more symbolic that we sit with a tank in front of his door than sit on rubble. So there's a bunch of symbols going on, but you want people on the ground as a symbol. And so when they eventually give up, they're giving up a human being. They don't give up to an airplane.
And yet we've heard from our reporters at Sky News in particular that they're expecting many more casualties now of civilians. So is this becoming a much more dangerous phase?
You know, yes, but it's been dangerous since the time it dropped off. If we are doing combat in the city, military operations in urban terrain, yes, but this is not what we're doing. We're doing quick right runs in the city and backing out. We've got 10,000 in the area, but probably at least 5,000 special ops guys who never leave the city. We've got pressure from all over the place. So we're not doing house to house. And in Sky News, I continue to say they're great guys. Every time I hear them talk, I still think they're watching a soccer match. This is, as Brother Wilson has said, this is remarkable to watch this, but sometimes we get ahead of the story. I mean, we're really ahead of the Pentagon right now. I mean, maybe not CENTCOM, but we're ahead of the Pentagon. They're watching Fox, talking to their boss, say, hey, by the way, we need to put a statement out. You know, Dave Perkins is sitting in Hussein's palace. Remarkable.
What are you seeing here live that we're watching?
That's an M1A1, and it's one of Perkins's brigade, his tanks. What they're doing is simply pre-positioning. They got, and if whoever is shot at this, my dead is somebody shot at him.
Ooh, I think Greg Kelly's back.
Go ahead, Mike.
Can you hear us?
Somebody shot at the tank. Dumb move.
You could see somebody just now shooting at the tank?
You heard him. You heard that. See there? You heard the background.
Okay, so
he's pre-positioning. So now he's parking. See all those vehicles around him? They're parking vehicles to prepare for any kind of counterattack. These tanks have got optics, binocular optics that can see forever. So they want to place them in the best place to see and block for any kind of terrorist attack, any kind of tank that can come back. If you're the Iraqis, just like with the airport, you want to try to take this building back. This is a symbol of your country. So you would think so. But we have killed so many of them and destroyed so much of their guard. I think the only thing you're going to find coming at them are these terrorists, these Hussein.
Fedayeen?
Yeah, thank you. Fedayeen Saddam's backwards. Fedayeen Saddam guys coming at them with technicals, with trucks.
Well, that raises a good question. Now that we are trumpeting our location,
absolutely,
and we're announcing where we are, what does that mean? Have we opened ourselves up to any possible attack?
We're begging them. We're begging them to attack us.
Why?
Because they attack us, the world falls on top of them. We're saying, look, here we are. We know they haven't got anything that can kill a tank, except what happened. They've killed a couple with the Russian vehicles, with the Russian anti-tank weapons. We're saying, come on out. And once that happens, we pounce on them.
Okay, Brian, I hear you have some more info.
Well, we're getting information from the wire. I want to explain that our Greg Kelly is there. Everything's okay. We can hear him. Apparently, he cannot hear us. It's a common thing known as an IFB failure, but that's something we'll try to work on. But the pictures continue. U.S. military says no reports of casualty so far in Baghdad fighting. U.S. military says it is now in control. Hey, guess what, guys? Say we're now in control of one Baghdad palace and have entered a second. Another bulletin says that 65 U.S. tanks, 40 fighting vehicles are involved in this Baghdad operation, and U.S. troops are continuing their advance into Baghdad. I'm catching these bulletins as they cross our wires moment by moment, so it seems to be going extremely well. Live pictures from downtown Baghdad, and you can see on the left side of your screen, I believe these are pictures from Lebanese television where you occasionally see some of the skirmishing that is still going on. You guys continue on. I'll keep monitoring all of the bulletins as they cross.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, so Colonel Hunt, now what? We just sit here and wait?
No, they got to go inside the building, look at the tunnels. You want to confirm that what the intelligence said these buildings are like, they're actually like it. So they're going to go throughout the building looking for booby traps, people looking for Hussein, looking for where he may have been, getting it. Now they own it. Besides the picture of it, now they have to gain intelligence and see where else to go. But Dave Perkins, this great brigade commander, has got another battalion and another palace. So he's got one battalion, which is 30 tanks, a bunch of Bradley guys. It's about 1,000 plus people. So I got 2,000 people, 1,000 in one palace, 1,000 another, plus his command group. And this was a major coup for the American military. The Marines are, again, the southeast side of the city, doing similar things, but and I'm sure Ollie will be up in a minute with something more as remarkable. But
first course would not
find out if the intelligence they would
some quotes from
template. Okay, at the same time, we position his tanks and Bradleys for the counterattack we've already talked about. They absolutely expect that there'll be a counterattack.
We know from our intelligence that these presidential palaces in general have these sort of elaborate bunker systems. Hold on, Colonel Hunt, sure. Hold that thought. We want to listen into Sky News for a second and see what they're saying about the battle in Baghdad.
Very much under Iraqi government control. The other side of the bank, the American flag has been raised and it looks like it's there to stay. But there are still a lot of Republican guards, a lot of Fedayeen, a lot of militiamen on this side of the bank. So the Iraqi flag is still flying here. So it's really up to the Marines to come up that road behind me to try and finish this fight. But I don't think the Americans can easily be dislodged from the position they're in at the moment. They have control of the air. They have some of the best tanks in the world surrounding the positions they've taken up. They've got the infantry digging in, and they've got control of two of the main bridges across the Tigris River. They've got control of many of the information ministry and government buildings. So they've demonstrated what they can do, and it looks like they are here to stay. But this side of the river, the Iraqi government is still very much in control.
It's a remarkable picture, that, isn't it? Anybody who lives in a city which has a river running through it, if you've got enemy forces with their flags on one side of it and you're the other, you're going to rather get the message, aren't you?
Well, I think there's no escaping the message now. It's all happened extremely rapidly. At dawn this morning, we had a huge rolling heavy artillery barrage from the Iraqis aimed at the international airport, as far as I could tell. But very soon after that, the firefight really increased in tempo. And then suddenly we heard about the armored column coming through, and then we saw the A-10 tank busters above us and some coalition strike jets. We knew this was different. We knew the fight was coming to the very heart of the city, and sure enough, before long, we saw the American armored column on the opposite bank of the Tigris. A huge firefight, lots of smoke, lots of dust, the smell of cordite tank shells detonating. You certainly know the fight has come to the heart of the city now. Everybody on the western part of the city must know, and probably can see if they dare look out of their windows, one or two of those American flags. They've seen the American armor passing them. They know that the American troops are in control on the western side of the city. Very rapid movement, a very brave adventure, very brave sweep by the armored column. But there's still a lot of Iraqi defenders on this side of the bank of the Tigris, and perhaps quite a few have been cut off by the rapid movement, by the rapid advance. Isolated pockets, but nevertheless, as we've known from Basra and all the other cities the Americans and the British have moved into, those might be isolated pockets, but they're very dangerous pockets. Desperate and determined, dangerous men who have got nowhere else to go and who will fight to the last. So although the Americans might be in control of certain areas on the west bank of the Tigris, the flag might have been raised, but it doesn't mean that they have complete control even of the west side of the city yet.
We're entering on that basis a very tense period, particularly for the reporters like yourself covering this, and I know that we all have to be careful what we say, but how would you assess the mood at the moment?
It's impossible for me, Simon, to assess the mood from where I've been standing here just listening to the battle, but looking around the streets, you've still got cars moving behind me. You've still got people moving around, perhaps trying to get out of it before the fight finally lands on this bank as well. We're getting shells landing on this side of the bank. So any civilians who can get out are probably getting out right now, which explains the movement of the cars around me. But I should think most people are hunkering down, waiting to see what happens. Perhaps waited for another few more hours yet for the firefights to die down, the machine guns to die down, and for the smoke of battle to literally clear. But at the moment, the smoke and dust and oil is drifting across the whole of the city. It's very hard for anyone to make out exactly what's happening, especially if you're taking shelter in your home with, say, all of your family, all of your children and your elderly relatives. You're going to stay there and turn the radio on and stay low, stay down, because there have been too many civilian casualties here already. But it looks like the final fight has now joined here right in the center of the city, and I expect that there'll be an attack on all points of the compass pretty soon to finally try and make this the final day of the battle. We'll have to wait and see if that's the case or not. As I say, these so-called pockets of resistance, even on the western bank of the Tigris, are very dangerous pockets. They might not have any command and control structures left. They might not be in radio contact with anybody, but they know the desperate situation. They know they've got to fight to the finish, and they will still resist. That's the Fedayeen, the Ba'ath Party militia, maybe the regular troops are prepared to sort of give up the fight. We don't know. I don't know what's happening on the western bank of the Tigris. I can hear there's a lot of activity, but the American flags have started to come up at various government sites. But here on the eastern bank, the government is still very much in control. The Iraqi government is in control, and there's still a lot of defenders on this side of the bank of the Tigris, let alone those pockets, dangerous pockets of resistance still surrounding the Americans.
You have been listening to Sky News coverage from the location, but these pictures you're seeing now, that's our correspondent Greg Kelly, and as you see, the Army's 3rd ID banner, the banner from this particular tank group is being shown in front of the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. Greg Kelly, are you there? Can you hear me?
I can, Brian. Great to talk to you. There's a lot of work going on, but a lot of celebration about securing this presidential palace. I think that's your tank up there.
That is our tank.
Lieutenant Colonel Flip-de-Camp, how was it coming in here, and what does it mean that American tanks are now on this compound of Saddam Hussein's?
Well, Saddam Hussein says he owns Baghdad. Wrong. We own Baghdad. We own his palaces. We own his downtown district. We own his hotels. Captain Chris Carter here brought in a mech infantry company and took this place, and he secured it. We've got another company down there, our tank company, secured the old presidential palace, and then we've got some monuments all covered down the middle of the town.
The resistance that you saw coming in, it was less, it seemed like, than what we saw 2 days ago. Does it make you feel like this thing has almost been won? Do you feel a lot of control right now?
Absolutely. They're showing a sporadic resistance, but it's a very poorly trained soldiers we're facing right now. So I think the good guy, the organized troops are giving up, and it's just the poorly trained militia type that are loyal to a madman is sticking around at this time.
You know, the troops have been in Iraq for a while, but it feels like now they understand they're making history. What are people talking about here?
Well, this is history. We've got the Rogues, our sister battalion, just north of us. They've got the monument sites. They wanted to raise flags, but we don't want to raise flags because we're not here to raise American flags. We're here to free the Iraqi people, and we've done that today, and that's the history. We've just taken down a regime, and we've brought freedom back to the Iraqi people.
Yeah, every time we've seen an American flag, we've noticed it's been on a tank. We haven't put it on any of the public buildings or anything like that. Have you been inside the palace yet?
I have not, but I know you have. There's running water. There's gold faucets. That'll be my first shower in about 20 or 30 days. I'm happy, looking forward to it.
You're gonna take a shower in Saddam Hussein's bedroom, huh?
In his personal bedroom. And Chris is gonna get all his guys good and clean too.
All right. Well, as you can see, these guys are happy. Everyone's happy. It looks like things are wrapping up. Still work to be done. They are securing other palaces and other points downtown. I guess you guys went to the University of Georgia, huh?
Lived in the same house, about 12 years apart. Oh, good stuff. The old Ranger house. How about them dogs?
How about them dogs?
Oh.
All right, Georgia. Hey, where are you going? All right, Brian, we're going to be here for a while. Enjoy the shot. We'll be back.
All right, thank you, Greg Kelly in Baghdad. And now we explain exactly what that battle flag was. Not so much a battle flag as a university flag. University of Georgia Bulldogs being flown. Boy, this is astonishing. Being flown over the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. These pictures coming to you exclusively on Fox News. You can't find them anywhere else. Greg Kelly, our correspondent with the Army 3rd ID, has entered the city of Baghdad. A number of tanks have taken one of Saddam Hussein's presidential palaces. They are in control of that location. At this point, they say they're going to stay for now. That is their plan. They say that they will keep assessing the situation. If they need to move, they'll move. But for now, their plan is to stay put. And as you heard, one of those soldiers says he intends to go into that presidential palace, go into Saddam Hussein's bedroom, turn the gold faucet, and take a shower. Amazing pictures coming to us from downtown Baghdad. Allison, jump in here.
Thanks, Brian. Colonel Hunt, I want to bring you in because we've been listening to all of this with rapt attention. You heard that soldier there say, Battalion Commander say, we own the city. And I certainly understand the adrenaline and the excitement, but is that premature?
That is a great tank battalion commander with a great infantry company commander, and they're tooting their horn. And it's the first time they've ever had this chance. They're on the world stage, remarkably disciplined soldiers, having fun at Hussein's and Kelly Fox expense. I mean, it's great stuff. But from his standpoint, he drove down the middle of Baghdad. He's in Hussein's palace. What you're saying is caution, danger, Will Robinson. There can always, yes. But he's saying, look, he's also saying, bring it on. We've been here 17 days. We've killed a lot of Iraqis. We're in your palace. We took the place. Now, from a larger standpoint, strategically, we probably don't want to announce that. There's a lot of things that are going on in the special operations community, in the intelligence community, with the Marines, a lot of things.
Oh, okay. Colonel Perkins is now back on our air. Colonel Perkins, can you hear us?
Great.
Colonel Perkins,
Colonel Perkins, you saw Colonel Hunt, your former boss, is on TV. Hey, say hi to your old officer.
I'm not saying hi. I'm going to say congratulations. I can't tell you how proud I am of you and the guys that you're with. It's been remarkable to watch this. And I know you got a lot more fight to do. I don't want to take up any more of your time. God love you, Dave. You've done a great job. Everybody's proud of you. Congratulations.
Hey, Dave, you always told me I work for you is trusting the soldiers. Well, you know what these guys do, and I can't even begin to hit the tip of the iceberg of what we've asked these U.S. Army soldiers to do in everything from a desert environment to river crossings and now in a highly urban area. And the American soldier has not failed this country once. It is unbelievable what the United States Army soldier has done here today.
Yeah, the training you've done to prepare for this, to watch how you've maneuvered your vehicles, used combined arms, the air, the concern you've shown and all the officers, NCOs for your soldiers, as well as killing all the people you've killed, is remarkable. I mean, I'm very, very proud to be. I mean, I'm not in there, but being in the midst of the camera, I can't tell you how exciting it is to watch you, having worked with you. I always knew I was working for you, anyways. Now I know I am. Congratulations,
Dave. Thanks, and like I said, this is a tribute to not only the American soldier, but the United States Armed Forces that they have done this. And I'll tell you, with absolute minimum collateral damage, you can see the palace here is in pretty good shape, and very minimum loss of life to civilians. Even today, in the heart of the firefight, on the radio net, you could hear ceasefire, ceasefire to civilian.
Remarkable discipline, Dave.
The heroes that surround me here today.
Unbelievable discipline.
If you want true American heroes, you just take a look at all these guys surrounding me here that says U.S. Army on their uniform. And that's what American heroes are.
Yeah, and you represent them very well, and it's wonderful tribute to you that you're not taking credit. You're absolutely right. They're the greatest guys in the world, but they're very, very lucky to have you as their leader. Congratulations, pal. Go back to work.
Dave, thanks. I hear some artillery in the background. I'm getting told some BIMPs are coming in from the west, so I got to get back and work with these soldiers. But great to see you and everyone else watching. The soldiers are overjoyed with the public support they get. We're getting phone calls back to Fort Stewart, to family members, and I'll tell you, it means an awful lot to the soldier who's here in the middle of an urban fight to know that he has the public support of the American public behind him, and that really is what keeps him going. That and the concern for his fellow soldier. You
look good too, by the way. Of course, you always look good. It's a little embarrassing. Would you go finish your business? Thanks for taking the time. God bless. Congratulations.
All right, Dave. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Wow, that was incredible. You must be a very proud former boss at this point.
Yeah, it's all him. I mean, it's all. What you hear this? There's no credit. I've known a lot of officers in my almost 30 years who would have stood there and taken credit for what I was saying to him, and he never once did. That's the kind of officer he is, and why he's leading this division every day. They don't switch out brigades. Perkins. The other guys are very good. He's the best, and it's wonderful to see that.
Now, back to this battle.
Sure.
Just because we have secured one presidential palace does not mean that we've won the battle in Baghdad, does it?
Yeah, well, no. Okay, no. No, it doesn't, because we have to get Hussein, and Baghdad is as big as Los Angeles. But from I guess from a philosophical standpoint, when you take an airport and the palace, you're pretty close to saying we do. But I understand why, from a CENTCOM standpoint or a Pentagon standpoint, even from Allison Camerata's standpoint, you might want to consider not the answer no, because there are other things we want in order to claim that victory.
Like the regime, for instance.
Like Hussein's head in the pike, sure.
And we haven't gotten the dirty dozen.
The dirty, yes, Hussein is 40 thieves, about 40 guys out there. Absolutely true. Tactically, though, the difference, you're talking strategically, and on a tactical standpoint, from Perkins's tank point of view, we're pretty close.
Okay. Brian, take it away.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I was being given some information in my ear when you did that toss. Let me give you a couple of bulletins that are crossing the wire right now. According to the Reuters news service, U.S. military says 65 tanks, 40 fighting vehicles are involved in this Baghdad operation. And the Associated Press says that the U.S. forces are near the Iraq Information Ministry and the Al-Rashid Hotel, but have not taken them. So apparently they are in that vicinity, but have not physically taken the buildings. But to remind you once again, the building you see on your screen now is one of Saddam Hussein's presidential palaces, and the U.S. Army is there in control, along with our correspondent, Greg Kelly. More additional information. Apparently, the U.S. troops took control of President Saddam Hussein's main presidential palace in Baghdad and entered a second on Monday morning. The U.S. military said, "We have seized the main presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. There are 2 palaces down there, and we are in both of them," says Lieutenant Colonel Pete Bayer. That according to the Reuters news service. Now, one of the people in charge of the operation to take this presidential palace was a Colonel Perkins, who you just heard a moment ago. Let's go back to an interview that Greg Kelly conducted about a half hour ago. It has the best information about what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish.
Well, Saddam Hussein says he owns Baghdad. Wrong. We own Baghdad. We own his palaces. We own his downtown district. We own his hotels. Captain Chris Carter here brought in a mech infantry company and took this place, and he secured it. We've got another company down there, our tank company, secured the old presidential palace, and then we've got some monuments all covered down the middle of the town.
So there you have it. That is what they're trying to do, to have a presence in downtown Baghdad. It's been a really, really exciting morning. Let me recap. We have about 60 tanks running into the middle of Baghdad, we assume from the airport, which is to the west side of the city. Perhaps we can throw up a map there to give you some sense of what's been going on. A-10 Warthogs were in the skies, as were some type of surveillance drone aircraft, giving commanders a real-time view of the battlefield. But then we heard from Greg Kelly, who says we're in the center of Baghdad, we're headed for the presidential palace, and then a few minutes later he called from the presidential palace. Now, the flames that you see on your pictures, and I believe these pictures are coming to us from Lebanese TV, those are oil reserves, puddles of oil that have been set on fire by the Iraqi forces in an attempt to obscure the view of coalition forces and coalition aircraft. Those are not burning tanks, as best we know. The tanks have met moderate to stiff resistance as they entered the town, but the amazing pictures that we are seeing from the presidential palace that you can see only here on Fox News. U.S. troops are in control of the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. They have taken the shot down, we are told, for a while, but you have seen some amazing, amazing pictures in the last hours right here on Fox News. Allison?
Thanks, Brian. We heard from Greg Kelly that they had encountered light to moderate resistance on the way, and you heard them say that they had taken some artillery and some BIMPs?
Yeah, BIMPs.
What's that?
Yeah, Colonel Perkins was saying that there was some BIMPs. So they're light armored vehicles, Soviet armored vehicles that they'll take apart. They're lost. Those BIMPs, these are Soviet armored personnel carriers.
And they're what? They're surrounding the presidential palace?
No, they were just coming down the road. They were getting some artillery.
Through Baghdad.
Coming towards the palace.
Yep.
And so he was going to go out and look at the fight, but his battalion commanders, company commanders take care of that easily. But BMP, a Soviet-made, is no match for anything that we've got.
Okay, we also heard one of our correspondents from our sister network, Sky News, who's across the Tigris, saying that no action is happening over there yet. Right. You think that's strategic?
Absolutely on purpose. That's just like the question you had, why we didn't destroy the palace, why we're not firing over their hearts and minds. Well, here we got the palace. We're showing great restraint to the Iraqi, both military but mostly civilian population. Here we are. We've taken the palace. We're not bombing you across the river. We're trying to create an atmosphere that says we're here to take the regime out, not you. It takes patience.
Okay, let's listen into Sky News right now. They may have an update. Their reporters are providing some live coverage. Let's listen in.
David, we're going to leave you for a minute just to take stock. We'll be back to you in just a moment. I want to bring in Francis Tusa, who's been monitoring what's been going on in London. I think David described this as the Tigris standoff. Quite a remarkable scene militarily, one would imagine.
Correspondent, but you can see that we seem to have missed our opportunity to listen into their correspondent on Sky News, but you can see that he's in the full regalia. He has the helmet on, he has the vest on, but you're saying that they don't really have to worry on that side because we're not going to be striking anything on that side.
Correct, but he could be shot by anybody.
I see.
I mean, the Iraqis could show him. I mean, it's a very good idea in the middle of combat to have that kind of gear on, particularly with the press. And as we know, we've lost some press, you know, in combat since this battle.
We sure have. Let's talk about what's going on inside that presidential palace that we have now secured. We know that there's a bunker system with all these sort of Byzantine tunnels, perhaps underneath.
There was some gold shower Cool showers. Faucets. Right.
And so what are the guys doing inside there right now?
Yeah, they're being very disciplined. Battalion commander, it's kidding. There's no way that he would ever do that. That's a lot. That's not going to happen. There's not any looting going on. What they're doing is they're going around and find any evidence of Hussein or the 40 thieves. What are the tunnels like? Do they connect to the other palaces? Is there any evidence he was there? Gathering more intelligence so they can move to the next palace. This is symbolic. Nobody's going to live there. We're going to give right back to the Iraqis. We're not going to hurt it. But what I won't do is hurt that palace or any of the buildings for their symbol. I want to give this back to Iraq. But it's all intelligence gathering and a little bit of rest, but mostly right now is preparing for the counterattack. They're still concerned that the Iraqi military could try to come back and get this place. It should. I mean, just like the airport. Be some skirmishes. Nothing major. There's not much left in and around Baghdad of the Republican Guards.
And to your mind, are they there now for good? I mean, meaning for the next foreseeable future. Are they at this palace for the foreseeable future, or do they come in and then head out again?
My bet is they're going to have to leave some type of force there. The problem is it's such a huge place. They don't want to strip away too much. We need more force, like the 4th Infantry Division is coming up. We could use some military police. So they probably leave observation on it. There's no reason I can think of to tactically occupy that size palace, but you want to observe it. They might leave cameras back. They also have these Hunter drones, the Predator drone, and the Global Hawk that can help look at a place without putting guys there. Once you take a place like that, you don't want to give it back.
I thought it was very interesting what we heard, I guess it was Dave Perkins, say, we're not hoisting the American flag. And we're not hoisting it because we are not coming in to take over Baghdad.
Yeah, that was their battalion commander, and that shows how disciplined they are, how the message, which is political, not military, it's a political message that everybody's got. They can put that. They don't want to put the flag up on buildings because they're obviously going to inflame people in the Muslim community. But they're going to be on our tanks and Bradleys or those Americans. But that's a big restraint on our part. We've taken it. We'd love to plant the flag. They're not. It shows great discipline.
Okay, let's go back down to Washington and Brian Wilson.
Thank you very much. Let's talk about what has happened in the last few minutes. You're looking at some taped images that we have lost our signal temporarily from the presidential compound in downtown Baghdad. These are exclusive pictures to Fox News. Our correspondent Greg Kelly is on the scene. We have had an incredible morning, and it's been an incredible morning in Baghdad as a convoy of tanks apparently left the Baghdad, what is now called Baghdad Airport, for the center of the city, with our Greg Kelly right in the midst of them. And now we have seen pictures from the presidential palace. Greg Kelly has been in the presidential palace. Other soldiers have been in the presidential palace. They have looked around. One soldier said he was going to go inside and take a shower in Saddam's bathroom. So let's listen to a little snippet of tape that we have from a few moments ago with our Greg Kelly.
Well, this is history. We've got the Rogues, our sister battalion, just north of us. They've got the monument sites. They wanted to raise flags.
Go off here, 75 meters to my left here. They're firing out to my right front here. So it's beyond the park because there are a lot of trees here, a lot of vegetation, but there are buildings in the distance here, just beyond the one pair of cross sabers.
Ron, joining us is also retired Major General Don Shepard. General Shepard, your thoughts as you listen to Ron Mart's reporting?
I just wanting from Ron if they are now taking any fire in these positions. I understand they took fire going in, but since they've been inside there, have they taken any fire? You getting any mortar rounds, anything of that sort?
Ron, I don't know if you could hear General Shepard. He's asking, are you taking in any incoming fire? I know we know you got some on your way to this position, but where you are now, is it largely outgoing fire, or are you getting anything coming back at you?
At the moment, I can't tell. I can't tell any mortar fire. I hear what appears to be the 25 millimeter gun of Bradley firing out. I hear small arms fire coming in, but I have not heard any incoming mortar fire since we took up positions in the park here.
Ron, how far are you from the Tigris River? Do you know?
From the map, it appears to be less than half a mile. It appears to be only a few blocks. I can't see the river from here, again, because of the fog and the mist, the smoke that's in the air.
Is there a large amount of black smoke wafting in the air above you, or is it just more?
No, a lot of it is obscured by the mist. I did see one large plume when I first got out of the hatch here, and much of that has been obscured. I can't see too far in the distance. It looks like the visibility is about maybe 500 meters or so.
Okay, Ron, I asked because some of the images we were seeing from along the Tigris River, images we are looking at right now, not only did we see what appeared to be Iraqi soldiers and or irregular paramilitaries running along the banks of the Tigris away from an area we had seen shooting, some of them armed, some of them apparently not armed, but we also saw a large amount of smoke coming out of palm trees along the Tigris, as well as at least one what appeared to be a trench filled with oil, and that bilious black smoke that we've all come to know pouring forth. So that's why I ask about the black smoke where you are now. Are there still...
No, nothing at all like that at the moment. Nothing at all like I saw on Saturday when they made their first drive into the city.
Before the operation went underway, was there any sort of a talk by the commander to the unit you were with?
Just to stay safe, be buttoned up, and to be mindful of civilians in the area, to pick their targets carefully, to minimize whatever collateral damage that there might be. But if anybody has a weapon, basically take them out. These guys have, from Charlie Company, have been in constant contact for almost 2 weeks now. They had a day of rest yesterday, but they're back in the middle of it again today.
Okay, and we just want to point out again, earlier reports from Reuters had said that both the Al Rashid Hotel and the Information Ministry had been taken by U.S. troops. Reuters is now reporting that U.S. forces are near the Iraqi Information Ministry, as well as the city center, the Rashid Hotel, but have not taken them. This, according to Lieutenant Colonel Pete Bayer, the operations officer in the 3rd U.S. Infantry Division. And a military source told Reuters reporter Luke Baker that U.S. forces had no plans to take either building at the moment. And we've also just gotten a bulletin from Reuters also saying that, that Iraqi Information Ministry firmly in Iraqi hands. This according to a Reuters witness. So that, of course, jibes with what Lieutenant Colonel Pete Bayer is saying, that U.S. forces are near the Information Ministry and the Rashid Hotel, but have not taken them. And according to Colonel Pete...
I know that...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I know that we are only a few blocks from both the Al Rashid and the Ministry of Information, and I cannot say one way or another whether they have been taken. I know that was part of the mission today, was to take both of those facilities and to secure them. But whether that has been done at this particular moment, I don't know.
Again, you have been listening to Ron March. He's a reporter embedded. He's with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Ron, it's Zahra Park that you are in right now?
Zahra Park, yes, that's Z-A-W-R-A. The large park in central Baghdad. And
it sounds like the outgoing fire has died down somewhat. Is that right to say, or is that?
It has. Anderson, I'm going to have to leave now. I've got to turn this phone over to my photographer to get some photos out here. So I can call you back in a little bit.
All right, Ron Martz with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Stay safe. Appreciate you calling in.
Okay, thank you.
We'll check in with Ron a little bit later on. Just want to give you a sense of what is going on at this point. It is 2:03 a.m. here on the East Coast of the United States. It is 10:03 a.m. in Baghdad.
The rest of us lay people.
Well, Mike, we are happy to serve as the Pentagon's video feed service, and we will keep these images coming as long as possible. Thank you. We'll check back in with you. Now let's go back down to Washington and Brian Wilson.
Yeah, let me check in as you continue to look at pictures we took a short time ago of the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad, where Greg Kelly has set up his video phone. The battle continues. Apparently, we are hearing a little bit about the other side of the story from the Iraqis now. They are trying to make the case that they aren't out of this fight yet. The Iraqi information minister says that the foreign ministry is still firmly in Iraq hands. And they say that Republican guards with rocket-propelled grenades are defending the ministries. However, that is in direct contradiction to at least one thing you see on your screen, and that is the picture of U.S. troops clearly in possession, controlling the grounds of Saddam Hussein's presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. Perhaps we keep repeating because the events of the last 2 hours are so astounding, so allow me to repeat one more time what has happened. A convoy of coalition tanks, actually Army tanks, 3rd Army ID, coming in from the airport, which is west of the city, into the center of Baghdad. In the midst of them is our own Greg Kelly, who has been reporting now from the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. These are exclusive pictures. Nobody else can touch them. We're the only people there right now. On your left side of your screen, you're seeing some of the other foreign news services. Notably, the Lebanese news service has been providing really tremendous pictures of what's going on around Baghdad. It does appear that, as it stands now, U.S. and coalition troops are on the west side of the Tigris River. And there are still a lot of Iraqi operations on the east side of the river. And apparently there is a battle going on there now, according to David Chater, who works for our sister news operation, Sky News. I'm sorry, repeat that please in my ear. Captain Chuck Nash is with us right now. Chuck, I want to bring you in here. We've seen it's been, your mouth just keeps falling open with the images and the developments in the last couple of hours. Share with me your thoughts about what you've seen here in the last few minutes.
Absolutely, Brian. If we could cut to the screenwriter, I think we'll diagram up a few things and put this on a map so people can take a good look at it. What we've got so far is that the road that comes in from the airport hooks up to an expressway, which actually winds right up to this area of town, which is the west side of the Tigris River. And just to make sure that we're all clear on this, the Tigris River is this line right here that cuts right through the center of Baghdad. So our guys are right in this area here, and to put that really in perspective on the satellite photo, this is where the good guys are right now. This is the expressway that comes in from the airport right along here, and the palace is right in this area right here. Now, across the river from this is where the Palestine Hotel is, and the folks over there have been simply looking across the river, right across here, and seeing Greg Kelly and the 3rd Infantry Division setting up shop and getting a well-deserved hot shower in Saddam Hussein's bathroom. The other thing that's going on is this over here is the memorial of their unknown soldier, and there's been some discussion excuse me, some discussion as well about a unit operating there. So it appears that what may have happened is they probably started out here by the airport, which is just off this chart, about 5 miles, and what they did was they came in right up the expressway. One group went over here to the memorial. The other group came over here and took this palace area. And that's as best we can tell right now until we get some more information. But I think that's fairly accurate.
Now, I want to make sure I understand, Captain Nash. On the other side of the river are a lot of where we're seeing some of these pictures. That's where a lot of the hotels are. That's where the information ministry is. That's where the foreign ministry is. Am I correct?
Exactly. What you're seeing there on the left side of your screen appears to be taken from across the river over by the Palestine Meridian Hotel, which is where a lot of the journalists are staying. And what they're doing is they're just looking across the river from their vantage point. As a matter of fact, on the screenwriter, I'll actually zoom in on this thing and show you a reference point that'll help with the frame, and that is right there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but can you see this island right here, that little marshy island area? Okay. Next time you see that that slot, or on the left-hand side of the screen there, when they pan across the river, you'll see that little marsh area, and that will put it right in reference from what the viewers are seeing and what the folks over in the Palestine Meridian Hotel are trying to show us. They're looking straight across the river, right into that presidential palace area.
According to the Reuters news service, Captain Nash, the United Kingdom military is urging the Iraqi government to capitulate. That's according to Sky TV. I want to also point out that according to the Reuters news service, they say that many Baghdad bridges across the Tigris are blocked by Iraqi forces. That would be the normal reaction, wouldn't it? Don't let them come across the bridges, but that doesn't mean much right now, does it?
Well, no, that doesn't mean much because, again, if we can hop back to the screenwriter, I'll point out where some of these bridges are. And if you look up here, you can see the bridges that cut across the Tigris. And let me just draw them in white. It'll make it a little easier. These are the main thoroughfares across from the northeast side of the city, and of course you've got these bridges down here. Well, that doesn't really mean anything because where the area that we have taken right now is this area right in here and up there. So we're really not interested in those bridges right now. But you know, if you're the bad guys and you got to do something, you might as well sit on a bridge, you know, because there's nothing else to do at this point.
Again, also, we are being told that a UK military official is telling Sky TV, our sister news operation, that several key Iraqi targets are expected to be taken Monday. So what else is in that area, Chuck?
Well, there's actually quite a bit of stuff. There is a, let me just back again to the screenwriter. There are some other presidential palaces, and I'll draw these things in with a white line, Brian, because there's an intelligence headquarters right here. There is an air defense headquarters right up in this area. This whole complex, this whole side of town right here, might as well just generalize a little bit. Those are a lot of government headquarters and areas. Right over here, there is an airfield. So there's a lot of government buildings. And the other thing is, with the presidential palace areas and all of that, you don't know what's buried underneath of those things. And there have been stories for some time and reports, more than just anecdotal information, that there is an extensive tunnel network underneath these palaces. So now that our guys are on the scene, they can start to really get down and do a little bit more than take a hot shower, but really go through some of these places quickly. So whether this is just, it appears the wires now are saying that the Defense Department is backing off this as being a major incursion or, quote, the real thing. And now they're saying that this is a demonstration of force to show that we can enter, which goes more along the lines of what the Brits did or have been doing down in Basra for the last couple weeks, which is these what they termed aggressive patrolling, where you go in, you demonstrate that you can move at will. It's very much on the ground, like we refer in the air, which is the difference between air superiority, which allows you to operate at a time and place of your choosing, to air supremacy, which allows you virtually total control of the skies, to air dominance where there's absolutely no threat. So I think what we're probably trying to do is the air superiority equivalent right now.
I'm also told by Tim Trevan, who has an intimate knowledge of downtown Baghdad, that the Council of Ministries, the Foreign Ministry, the Ministry of Information, the Ministry of Defense, and the Ministry of Military, I'm sorry, what's that word?
Industrialization.
Industrialization are in that area as well, and those would be key targets, would they not?
Absolutely. That whole area, that whole side of the Tigris, as Tim points out, and he's much more familiar with that than I am because he's actually walked that ground over there. But that whole section is government ministries, government agencies, and perhaps this tunnel complex, which would be well worth investigating while we're there.
Let me bring Allison Camerata into our conversation. Allison?
Thank you. Captain Nash, I only have a couple of questions. Now that we have secured these, hot spots in Baghdad, are we still relying on an air campaign, or is that over now that we're on the ground?
No, we're going to keep air power up overhead in case the bad guys decide to gang up and mount some kind of a counteroffensive, or in some way try to interfere with our comings and goings. You've seen in the coverage this morning video of an A-10 flying overhead. That's a great weapon system if you're going to be in a situation like that, because they're flying around with this 30-millimeter Gatling gun and some Hellfire missiles on there. So what they can do is they can get down and dirty, and that airplane is it's the equivalent of a flying tank. It was actually built to take hits, fly low on the battlefield. It's not a pointy-nosed, go-fasty. It's called the Warthog. Actually, it's the Thunderbolt, but everybody calls it the Warthog because it's kind of a tough beast. But that thing can get down there in a 30-millimeter round, which it can fire, I think, 4,000 of these things, 4,000 rounds a minute. Each 30-millimeter round is the size of a Coke bottle. So these things, and they're high explosive, or he can actually fire depleted uranium if he wants to chew apart a tank. But that thing is a tank killer. So if these guys run into any problems with bad guy armor, you can call that A-10 down, or an overhead F-18 or anybody else, get them down there, and you can start attriting these tanks before they even come in contact with our guys. Because the problem that we're going to have over there with armor is this is not the wide open desert or scrub that we've been fighting in. This is now, with buildings and everything, you're going to have very short fields of fire where you could come around a corner and there's somebody and his barrel's already aimed that way, and he can, schwack you. So by having eyes in the sky, we're flying the Predators around, we're staring down at the ground. So I am sure, I'll virtually guarantee you that before we went in and did this maneuver, that they had fully reconnoitered this area from the sky using the Predator and overhead manned assets to make sure that the route was clear, and if it wasn't, they had a plan on how to make it clear.
And Captain Nash, if Baghdad quickly comes under coalition force control, how does that affect the fights that are going on in cities elsewhere in the country, in Basra or in Mosul?
Well, I think Tip O'Neill was the guy who said that all politics is local. The thing is, the people all over the country now are waiting to see what's going to happen up here in Baghdad. If Baghdad falls, I can't help but believe that that will take the wind out of the sails of a lot of these people who are holding local communities and villages under their thumb. When they see that Baghdad has fallen, if this indeed is going to be, excuse me, going to result in the fall of Baghdad, what we're seeing right now, it's certainly the first step. But as Baghdad falls, that will give the rest of the population the impetus to rise up. And that's what we need. We need the locals telling us who these Fedayeen Saddam are, because they're walking around in regular clothes. We need those guys to get pointed out to us, and until the population feels safe in identifying these people, we can't remove the threat. So the direct answer to your question, Allison, is if this thing works and Baghdad starts to fall, or this may be enough, quite frankly, to get the locals to say, okay, we've had enough. The Americans and the Brits and the Aussies, they're here to stay. Let's do it. Let's rise up. And that's what we've been waiting for. It's been called the tipping point.
Okay, Captain Nash, thank you. I want to bring in Colonel Hunt now. Colonel Hunt, if we do not find Saddam Hussein in short order, how do we know when we've won?
Yeah, great. I think we have to find Hussein, or the 40 Thieves. We got to find somebody of significance, because we got to put a face on this victory. But that's for political reasons. But we could claim victory anytime we want. and then go chase him around. When you control the center of a city, you control the airport, everything but the president of the country is hiding someplace, you could claim it. But I think, from a political standpoint, you want Hussein and his sons and the 40 thieves publicly displayed as either dead or in custody.
But from a strategic standpoint, if we claim victory but we don't have them, can't they come back with a vengeance at some point, pop back up?
Well, yeah, but that would be committing suicide. I mean, there's nothing to pop back up with. But again, we really do want to find him. I mean, it's not. You're asking me though, can we claim it?
Yeah.
When you put tanks in the middle of a guy's house, you probably can claim you own the house without the guy being in there. But because it's a regime change, you do want to find the president. You want to find Hussein and his 40 thieves, and then you go on and find the weapons of mass destruction after you get consolidation. We've still got to fight up north. These great Navy pilots and Air Force guys are really working that ground with special operations guys leading these 70,000 Kurds. Phenomenal combat going up north. They're about an hour's drive from Baghdad, where they're fighting. But there is some resistance up there, and the SF Special Forces guys, with the Navy's help and the Air Force help, is making short order of that resistance.
Let me go back down to Washington now and bring in Brian Wilson.
Yeah, Allison, let me throw in a couple of bulletins that are crossing the wires here. We continue to get comments coming from a British military spokesman, and he has some pretty interesting things to say. He says that, quote, Saddam has no significant forces left. He goes on to say that Saddam can no longer control his forces. And a few moments ago, we were hearing from our Sky News sister station that a military spokesman from Britain, Great Britain, was saying that it's just time for Saddam's regime to capitulate. One other thing that we should point out here is that according to the Reuters news service, I want to pull that back up on my screen, they say that Iraqi forces are in charge of the foreign ministry, which is apparently just a couple of blocks from the presidential palace that you see on the right-hand side of your screen. They say they are still in firm control of that, and they control other key positions. The Iraqis, they say, control other key positions within downtown Baghdad. Just to give you an update of what you're seeing on your screen, on the right hand in the big box, that is one of Saddam Hussein's presidential palaces in downtown Baghdad. These were pictures taken earlier by our Greg Kelly, who is with the Army's 3rd ID, as they marched right into the middle of Baghdad and took over this palace. This is a move designed to show that they can go anywhere, anytime, any place. On the left hand, you're seeing live pictures of occasionally we see smoke, occasionally we see some skirmishing going on. This is downtown Baghdad, I believe being provided by the Lebanese news service. They are providing pictures, and they've been providing some really amazing pictures so far. A tremendous turn of events. It is not being described as the battle for Baghdad, but earlier we heard our Greg Kelly talk to a Colonel David Perkins, who's in charge of the group that took over this palace. He said, we'll stay here. We'll assess the situation. We'll try to stay here and hold it, but we'll leave if we need to leave. We'll go other places if we need to go other places. The very distinct message being sent here is that coalition forces can pretty much do what they want to anytime they want to do it. Tim Trevan is a former weapons inspector, in the studio here with me in Washington. Tim, your thoughts on these pictures you're seeing?
It's absolutely amazing. And one thing that was said earlier about the bridges being defended, they really are irrelevant if you've got the 3rd Infantry Division coming in from the southwest and you've got the Marines coming in from the southeast. You don't need to cross bridges. You've got both sides of the rivers covered already. So certainly it looks like the center of the city is there for the taking when the coalition forces want to do that.
If they choose to do it. We often hear about this anvil and hammer and squeezing the troops between the two. Sometimes the anvil is ground forces and the hammer is air forces, but in this case it may be a squeeze between the Marines and the Army.
The one sector which isn't covered by this movement is the north, so it is possible that by squeezing these two forces together, you'll force the Iraqis to retreat out to the north. But of course, then we've got the Kurds coming down with special ops and other troops from the north as well.
The wires are reporting that perhaps there are other key targets to be taken in this area. Go through the list of things that you think might be on their list.
I would think the key ones would be obviously the Ministry of Information. If you take that out, that's a very obvious target. The Ministry of Defense, definitely the Ministry of Military Industrialization, because this was the ministry which was responsible for the weapons of mass destruction programs. So if you took that building and you took the Ministry of Defense, there's a good chance you'd find the documentation about the past weapons of mass destruction.
Which is really important to what's going on here. What is near this presidential palace? I mean, we understand the foreign ministry is just a couple of blocks away?
Pretty much everything's very near to it. It's quite near even to the Al Rashid Hotel, which is so famous for being the center for Iraqi guests and journalists, and of course being hit by the missile attack back in the past. So everything is there within 5 or 10 minute car ride from that palace.